You mean related with this operation?
I'm asking, before this operation, has there been any information of any attack on civilian population or such collateral damage on civilians before now?
That's what I'm asking, Mr. Suleiman. I'm asking, are you specific to the counterinsurgency operation that is happening in the northeast?
Absolutely.
Or in other areas of conflict?
No, the counterinsurgency that is happening in Nigeria's northeast.
Well, our research at the Center of Civilians in Conflict, we do remember there was an incident that happens in Niger where an Air Force aircraft, to be honest with you, what is available in open source, we don't know from which aircraft, but there was an attack, I think in 2015, in which an aircraft that is involved in this operation dropped some bombs on some civilians in Niger Republic that were going on a funeral. I do remember clearly because we conducted a research on that. There was that incident as well.
What form of compensation do they get, or are we expected to give to civilians who suffer such collateral damage, as you've highlighted, for those who have also been dislocated from their communities or source of livelihood? It's also a victim. So what form of compensation is the nation likely to give to such people?
Thank you very much. Paying compensation, or what we call casualty repair, it's an international best practice concept that is advocated. We at the Center of Civilians were also advocating for the Nigerian military, and we're seriously discussing with DHQ. Luckily, even before this incident, we had a collaboration with the Defense Headquarters in which we organized an event, and jointly we are putting a document that will ensure that there's a civilian harm mitigation policy nationally. In such a policy, making of amends is required. Why do we call for amends? Amends help to heal the wounds of civilians. These are citizens who have suffered harm, admittedly, not deliberately, it's by incident, but then the government should go out of its way to show that amends can be made. I still go back to the incident in Kunduz in Afghanistan. After that incident, President Obama publicly apologized, just like our President Muhammad Buhari has done, which is very impressive and very timely. Then there's the issue of amends. In that incident in Kunduz, about the sum of, I think, $3,000 was paid to any person that was injured, and then $6,000 for those that lost their lives. Altogether, about 70 families and individuals were given amends for people that suffered. Now, amends has to be differentiated from somebody taking the government or taking the armed forces to court. It is not really legally binding, but it is an encouraged international global best practice that when such incidents happen, amends should be made. Now, even when you do amends, in order not to have varying criteria that are introduced in different situations, it is good to have a coordinated policy on amends. Such a policy could, for example, decide if somebody loses one arm, what is he going to be given? If somebody loses a life, what is going to be given? If somebody loses a leg, what is going to be given? Now, such a formal document, probably either from the presidency, either from the Ministry of Defense, or from the Defense Headquarters, that will apply to the whole armed forces is very necessary. And it removes ad hocism. It removes ad hocery. That is to say, we have the incident that happened in Iran now, in Kalabalgi. If, God forbid, we have another incident that happened elsewhere, you apply the same standards for compensation. Again, like I said, we have to know that the concept of amend, again, does not imply that the armed forces or the government has accepted that it has committed a crime, but rather is an acknowledgement that a citizen has been harmed, and in order to project the military in the good image and also to project the government is going out of its way to provide, amends. I have not had amends apart from the government coming out of this incident, but we hope as an organization that the issue of amends will look, and even going before that, like this incident has shown, it's good to have policies and procedures in place rather than waiting until something happens, then you start thinking. Because now we'll return to start thinking, okay, if you say amends, how much do you pay somebody who has lost his life? How much do you give somebody whose shop was hit? But a policy that is prepared beforehand will take care of all these contingencies, and it will apply not only for today, but for future operations.
I know you talked about policies and how they will be used, but let's look at the role of the civilians in this. How much of information should the civilians get in the course of executing this kind of warfare so that collateral damage is also avoided?
Thank you very much for that question. Yes, civilian harm mitigation entails all actions, all procedures that are taken in order so that civilian casualty is minimized. At the basic concept, you could have issues like pre-warning. Warning could be done either through dropping of leaflets, or it could be through some subjects of communication. If an area that is occupied both by the enemy forces and civilians is identified and it has to be attacked, it is good to give pre-warning information so that people, as much as possible, can leave that place. Now, even where the people have left that place, again, you have to look at the issue of proportionality. I will be very hypothetical here now. If you are chasing an insurgent that has entered a primary school with 20 people, no matter how important that insurgent is, now you have to weigh. Does it make military, political, or strategic sense to maybe take out that building and hit that insurgent and also kill 20 school children? Now, this is the question of proportionality that comes into it. At the bottom line of it is that there could even be the option of leaving the insurgent to escape. So, as much as possible, people on the ground, local populace that are in areas of operation should be warned. It is part of the precautions that is demanded by international humanitarian law because it says all feasible precaution. That is the phrase. All feasible precautions must be taken by the military commander to avoid harming civilians or civilians' objects.
Quickly, let's see what we can take before we go on a break, because when we come back on the other side, we'll be talking about what form of information we can get as citizens of the country now that we know that we have fleeing members of the terror group. Some, we understand, were even arrested here in Lagos. Now, quickly, before we wrap up on this air operation, there must be something that the people, because Nyota asked the question, and from there I picked this, there must be some kind of information that the people must also get that will help the pilot when it's up there in the sky. But I think when we come back, we'll look at that and space it very quickly on the attack in the mosque in Maiduguri and how people can help, watch out for these people who are carriers of explosives coming into our midst. That'll be when we return. Now, quickly is our homeward stretch with you, retired Group Captain Sadeeq Shehu, and we want you to speak on the fleeing Boko Haram members. And some would say the warfare, I think, has changed tactics. Now we have people who are within us. The last one was in the mosque in Maiduguri, the university there. How well can, as a counterterrorism expert, how well can the people minimize, if not avoid, such damage or loss of lives?
Thank you very much, Mr. Suleiman, for that question. Yes, as we saw in the last attack in the mosque and other similar attacks that have happened, the issue of fighting counterterrorism in a coin operation as we are having, that is a difficulty in it. You might have sufficient victory in the field of battle, but since the enemy disperses and uses decentralized methods, unfortunately, we may for some time continue to see such isolated attacks. What role for the citizens that are in this area? Now, for the proper collaboration between the people on the ground and the security forces, we advocate for continued civil-military coordination. The military should, as much as possible, interact with civil society, with religious leaders, with community leaders, and we at the Center of Civilians in Conflict, we are also holding trainings that bring both the military and civil society organizations together. The people have to feel comfortable, have to feel clearly protected to pass information to the security forces. Now, the military also has to realize that the people's mind is the center of gravity in such an operation. While the military is trying to show its good side and its readiness to work and protect civilians, it is also probable that Boko Haram on their side will be doing the same. So the battle space might even move to the, the conventional battle space and then to the minds and hearts of those people that are living in the ground, in the areas that are having the conflict. So as much as possible, there should be collaborative effort between the military and the security forces. There should be a concerted effort to bring the local communities to near them as much as possible. I have seen many TV jingles and other announcements being placed either by the military or the Ministry of Education. That is going the right way, but it should continue. At the same time, countering violent extremism efforts should be either through Quranic schools, religious schools, mosques, because you have to search ways of de-radicalizing the young men that have already, such negative ideas have been planted in them. So countering violent extremism, providing counter narratives in both we are predominantly Christians and Muslims in Nigeria. In both the Bible and the Holy Quran, one can find passages that call for non-violence, that call for peaceful coexistence. So our clerics and our religious leaders should also use these narratives to counter what people like Shekau are also advocating.
Let's make this your, take-home takeaway. Tell us, we've seen religious houses being attacked by the group. Now we have seen the form of security many have put in place. You are a Muslim. Is there any possibility where you can have such security checks in mosques, especially following what has happened at the mosque in the University of Maiduguri?
It still revolves around to the civil-military coordination, I am saying. What is involved here is to make people understand that security is for everybody's interest. If I'm going to a mosque to pray, if you are a reasonably enlightened person, there's nothing wrong with somebody telling me, and I've seen it happen in a mosque, bring out what is in your pocket or keep this thing here. I think the idea is is the way of handling. It's mutual respect between the security forces and the citizens. As long as there is sufficient communication, we are here to protect you. Yes, security measures have some element of inconvenience, but if a citizen understands that all the security measures that are put in place is for his and her good, to make sure that you come to your prayer place or your business place and return in one piece, I think we'll see more of this collaboration. I don't think there will be any resistance to security measures in mosques or even in churches or even other public places. But the idea, I said, is the method of engagement, which should be done in a very cordial and respectful manner between the security forces and the people that are living in the areas.
Shehu, many thanks for speaking with us on Sunrise Daily. He's a retired military officer, Air Force Group Captain, currently the Regional Program Manager, Lake Chad for the Center for Civilians in Conflict, former Nigerian Air Force spokesperson, peace and security expert, as well as counter-terrorism expert. It's a pleasure having you on the show this morning.